Good morning, everybody. Brad Armbrust here with Armbrust and Associates. Heather and Holly are in the background doing all the tech work. I really appreciate your time on this. I know everybody's super busy, so I do value that time. Today I wanted to introduce you to somebody who is going to be the new administrator. Actually, not going to be. She is the new administrator. And I wanted to tell a little bit about the background. There's a lot of rumors out there right now, and I just wanted to clarify some of those rumors as well as give you the opportunity to maybe ask some questions. So who I'd like to introduce is your new administrator for the state of Oregon, the Gae Lynne Cooper.
Good morning.
And Gae Lynne, so the new administrator.
Yeah.
Little bit of a background. You're actually, this is not new. You've been an interim administrator.
I have. I've been the interim administrator for 10 months.
10 months, and that was October?
Well, it started in August, yes.
Yeah, how'd that ever come about?
Whoa, I'm not really sure.
Well, the board actually lost a couple key members of the staff, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
They stepped down.
They stepped down, and all of a sudden I got this call late at night asking me if I would step in as the interim administrator, and what was I thinking? Yeah,
right. You know, that was almost like the president.
Yeah.
Who do you want in charge at 2 a.m.?
Yeah, exactly.
But what were you doing prior to that phone call?
Actually, I was the AMC compliance specialist.
Okay, and when did you start that?
I started it January 1st, 2012.
Yeah.
And basically, that's what I did. Yeah. I did investigations, a few investigations, and registered AMC companies, appraisal management companies.
But you didn't do just AMCs. Didn't you do the appraisal side of things too a little bit?
I did a little bit of investigations, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And did a few investigations. I also wrote temporary rules and did some research for the board. Mm-hmm.
Nice. So prior to you having the great experience of the appraiser certification and licensure board, how did you start? Have you had anything similar to this, or?
Actually, I worked for the State of Oregon Real Estate Agency, and I was there for, gosh, 16 years.
Oh wow! So you've been associated with real estate a long time.
Oh, a long time.
Yeah.
And towards the end, I was their senior financial investigator, and basically worked with 12 other investigators. I mostly worked with criminal cases with the FBI, mortgage fraud,
nice.
Real estate fraud. Yes.
But all realtors.
Realtors, but I had a little bit of dealings with appraisers. It's kind of like we, you know, when you do an investigation, there's usually more than one person involved.
Yeah.
So, so there was mortgage loan officers, there was appraisers, there was realtors. Yes.
Nice. So you worked with FBI and all that.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, I was involved in a task force made up of different state agencies and the FBI and law enforcement, and we did quite a few cases in the state of Oregon.
Nice. So zipping up now to the board, and you got that late night phone call.
Yes.
And you became the interim administrator.
That's correct.
So what was that like? I mean, what exactly do you do?
A little bit of everything.
So are you doing investigations?
I have done investigations. We went from a staff of 7 employees down to, gosh, 4 or 5 employees. We had 3 management positions, and we lost 2 of those positions. So basically, I was still doing AMCs, registering the AMCs, and you know, doing my old job. I took on the position of what Karen Turnbow did, which was personnel, human resource. So I did payroll reports, PEB reports, HIM reports, the governor's report, oh gosh, workman's comp report, temporary rules. I also did acting as the administrator, so I testified in the legislation. I wrote a report that went to the legislators. I took all phone calls. I went to Washington, D.C. to represent the state of Oregon.
So it almost sounds like it's much more of a management position than anything else.
It is.
It is?
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the personnel, is that getting taken care of?
It is. You know, when I first started, none of the personnel had a position description. So that was the first thing that we had to do. Within months, we were supposed to be audited by the Secretary of State, so we had to hurry up and get in compliance. We just basically, I've been running ever since.
Yeah, so you were with the AMC compliance specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Has that person been replaced yet, or?
No, that position has not been replaced yet, though just recently the board has given me permission to place that position, to replace that position, and so we do have it on our website. We have it on Craigslist, and we sent out emails to all the licensees.
So that's an available job.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
See, that you might consider that out there.
Yes.
The more applications, the better, honestly.
That's correct.
So how about the, you know, a lot of appraisers like to call them the enforcer or the compliance specialist for the appraiser. That was vacant for a long time. That was vacant
for a very long time, about 4 months. Basically what we had a deficit. The board had a deficit that we had to take care of. We also had other issues we needed to take care of before we could fill that position, and we recently have filled that position. Larry Noe has accepted that position. He is a appraiser. He's licensed as an appraiser. He's also had a background in law enforcement and in education, so we're pretty thrilled.
So he has investigative background too.
Yes, yeah, yes, and cool. He just completed the appraisal subcommittee's investigative training courses, training 1 and 2. So
excellent. Yes. And then Karen's position.
Karen's position was a management position, and we have decided not to fill that position, and so that position is actually going to be combined with the administration position. So
who's taking care of the AMCs now?
I am.
You
still.
Are. Still.
Yes.
So you get paid extra for that?
No.
No, not extra. Okay, fine then. I'm glad better you than me.
Yeah.
So who else is on the staff?
Well, we have Jan Cannon, and Jan is now in charge of licensing, and she's been with the board for a long time and full of knowledge. She takes care of licensing. She also takes care of the education part of it. We have Callie Morris. Callie Morris is an appraiser. She's licensed to be an appraiser. She does the minutes. She does the website. She's taken on the position of learning our IT. We're hoping to, in the future, do newsletters and get them out by email.
Again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
So we're hoping to get that started and going. She does compliance audits for the appraiser assistants. And
okay.
Yeah.
So this turmoil that the ACLB has had, and I don't know if everybody even has been aware of the turmoil,
mm-hmm.
but do you see that as settling down now, or?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think you know, we got through the Secretary of State compliance audit, and you know, right now we're getting ready for the appraisal subcommittee's compliance audit. That will be in July.
What's that mean anyway? Who are those guys?
The appraisal subcommittee is from Washington, D.C., and basically they make sure that all the states are regulated and you know, are in compliance with the federal law.
So what happens if we're not?
We get a poor grade, and if we get a poor enough grade, then our appraisers will not be able to appraise outside the state.
And they're coming to the state when now?
July 14th, 15th, and 16th.
So that's the big audit.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we've done pretty well in the past.
Yes, we have. We've done excellent in the past. Yes.
Good. Excellent. So you know that now that you've been in this position for a while, because I know you were just hired for the official administrator,
yes.
But really you've been in it since October. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
So what do you think the most urgent things that have to be handled are?
Right now, the big thing on my list is probably our IT issues. We have a file maker that is just corrupt, and it's dropping information of licensees daily. It's not working for us, and so we've got to figure out another avenue.
That's been around for a long time,
yes,
hasn't
it has.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it's very frustrating for the office staff, and yeah, it's been on the board's issues for what, a couple of years?
Couple of years.
Yeah. So we're taking it on, and we're hoping to get it solved by July.
Okay.
Or the next board meeting.
I'm going to kind of dive into a little more delicate subjects. You know, in the past, the board and the staff have kind of been accused of being bullies and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, wasn't there a Senate bill that actually kind of addressed that?
Yes.
Can you touch on to that Senate bill?
Well, I can't tell you what bill it is right offhand.
It's okay.
But basically, it has passed, and legislation is now stating that we have to have a committee in place, and the committee actually had to be in place by January 1st, 2014. And that committee is made up of 3 members from the board who we call them the Enforcement Oversight Committee, and they are to review the investigations and determine if there's possible violations from the investigation that's been completed. We have gone one step further, and that committee, which is called the Enforcement Oversight Committee, is actually reviewing the allegation reports when they first come in. And so when they first come in, that committee meets monthly. They will review the allegation report and determine if we need to do an investigation. And if they determine that we do need to do an investigation, then we complete the investigation. We write up our preliminary compliance report. Then the committee meets again on that report and reviews the report and determines if there's possible violations.
So you said something interesting to me. You didn't say a complaint. You said an allegation.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between an allegation and a complaint?
This is a new procedure that the board came up with, and I'm pretty excited about it. In the past, whenever anybody wrote in a complaint on a licensee, it automatically was called a complaint, and it went on the record, and it didn't matter if there was no jurisdiction. It didn't matter if there was violations or not. It was still considered a complaint on your record.
Even if it was frivolous?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So now what we call them allegation reports. And so it's not considered a complaint. It's an allegation. It's an alleged allegation. So after we do our investigation, it's still an alleged allegation until the Enforcement Oversight Committee determines that there's possible violations. And if the Enforcement Oversight Committee reviews that preliminary compliance report, looks at the evidence, determines that there is possible USPAP violations, then they let us know, and then it becomes a complaint.
So let me get this right. Okay, so an allocation comes in, it goes before this committee first.
Mm-hmm.
They either say yay or nay.
Right.
If they say nay, what happens?
Then what happens is that, you know what, we send out a letter to the person who submitted the allegation report, and we say it doesn't come under our jurisdiction, or, you know, we've reviewed this and it doesn't appear that there are.
So does the appraiser ever know?
No.
Why?
You
Seems
know,
like it'd be a good learning tool, is what I've heard.
yeah. The thing is that when we were submitting in the past, when we submitted this complaint, and we asked the appraiser to respond to the complaint, the appraiser got themselves all worked up and they were all upset, and you know, they were hiring attorneys, and this was even before we determined if it was frivolous or not. So now what happens is we call them allegation reports. It goes right to the Enforcement Oversight Committee. If they determine that it's frivolous and we don't want to proceed with it, then we just notify the complainant or the person who filled out the allegation report.
So before the allegation report, it was always a complaint, and the staff was mandated to go ahead and contact the appraiser at that point.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it took a lot of, you know, time for the appraiser to write down his response. He had to submit his work file, and you know, and a lot of times there was no need.
No need, but before they had to go through that process. Okay, so now the allegation report goes through the Enforcement and Oversight Committee. Then the Enforcement and Oversight Committee goes, yep, there might be an issue. We don't know if there's an issue, but there might be an issue. Then
at that point we notify the licensee, the appraiser, and we ask him for his response and for him to submit his work file.
But it's still not a complaint.
It's still not a complaint. It's an allegation. It's an alleged allegation, and we do our investigation, we do our interviews, and it doesn't become a complaint until the Enforcement Oversight Committee reviews the preliminary compliance report and all of the exhibits, and then determines if there's possible violations.
That compliance report could just say it's frivolous.
Yes.
And then the Enforcement Oversight Committee agrees, and then it's dismissed, and then away it goes.
Yeah.
If the compliance report says, yep, there's problems, and it goes before the Enforcement and Oversight Committee, what happens then if the committee says, okay, we agree with you at that point? Then what happens?
Then we notify the licensee, and we tell them that it went in front of the Enforcement Oversight Committee, and they determine that there is possible violations, and so we try to settle with the licensee.
Okay.
And we recommend a sanction, and we try to settle with them, and if we come to an agreement, then at the board meeting, the next scheduled board meeting, then the Enforcement Oversight Committee will give their report to the board, and the board will approve.
So it seems like a really extensive process to me. I mean, a lot of time consuming for the committee, more work for you guys. Why was this why did the Senate make us do this? I don't quite understand.
Well, in the past, what we had was we had an administrator and we had a compliance specialist investigator who they were the only ones that determined if we should open up an investigation. They were also the ones that determined if there was violations. And then it was that when there was, you know, and they also negotiated the settlement. So it was like a team of just the administrator and the investigator. Then at the board meeting, what the board was asked to do was to ratify the orders, and they didn't even know what the case was about, and they didn't even, you know, they weren't a part of making that determination.
So the Senate bill essentially was, look, you guys as a board need to kick it up a notch.
Yeah, you need to get involved.
Get involved, make sure you're overseeing the activities of the staff so they're not, rumor or not, loose cannons going.
Right.
Okay.
And you know, and I think it's great because it's, you know, we've got more eyes looking at it, and it's not just the decision of the administrator or the investigator. We've got 3 board members. One's public, and 2 of them are licensed appraisers, and we have yourself, who is a USPAP instructor, who's looking at this, and you know,
but where's this smoke-filled room that the committee sneaks off and?
Yeah, I don't know. Where is it?
I don't know. Is there a smoke-filled room?
I don't think so.
Is this? It's not public though, is it?
You know, the public can attend. All meetings, except for executive meetings, can be attended by the public. You can't testify, you can't say anything during the meeting, but you're welcome to attend an enforcement oversight.
Are there minutes that the people can find?
Yes, there are minutes that they can find on our website, or they're welcome to call into the board and talk to Callie, and Callie will be glad to submit the minutes.
The minutes have changed a lot, haven't they?
They have. Mm-hmm.
And they're really detailed now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How come?
Well, we received a lot of complaints where there wasn't enough information in there, and there wasn't enough detail, and even the staff was having a hard time trying to find out information from minutes that was taken 2 years ago or so. So we decided to change that and actually detail them and put more information so everybody could use those minutes.
That was a big. Did you do that change?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's a big change. Not that I necessarily like it. I don't like being
yeah,
quoted.
you have to be careful what you say.
You do have to be careful what you say. So okay, fine. So that's actually a good thing. The EOC is I think it's going to be a really, really great thing for the licensees more so than anything.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. We just need to, right now it's still an experimental program. We do have a flow chart, but we don't have policies and procedures in place right now. Because we're just fine-tuning it.
Yeah, those are in the process.
How it works and stuff. But yes, it is a process, and actually, I've heard really good comments from licensees.
Well, it's almost like the old days where you're innocent
until proven guilty.
Until proven guilty. Before, where it was a complaint, you were essentially, it's a complaint. You had to prove your innocence.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah,
I think it's being respectful.
Yeah, excellent. So let me ask you this: as an administrator,
mm-hmm.
I mean, what's your philosophy on regulation? I know the board has control of that, and you actually work for the board, and you do what the board says, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But you do run the everyday operations.
Mm-hmm.
What is your philosophy on regulations? And
well, dude, you know. I do work for the board, but I get to put my 2 cents in. And one of the things that I think I'd like to see the board do, and is that we become proactive.
Which means what?
Which means that, you know, once we get caught up in our investigations, I'd like to use our time to do compliance reviews, just volunteer compliance reviews. You know, where we can look at an appraisal report, we can work one-on-one with that appraiser on how to develop a better, clean report. Maybe
you want my report without an allegation?
Exactly.
Is that going to be in your philosophy? Is that going to be voluntary?
Or? It is a voluntary thing, and I think it's you know, I'd like to spend time in educating and just being proactive. One of the things I think that's kind of sad right now is appraiser assistants. They become registered with the board to become appraiser assistant. They put in their hours. Right before they go to take the test, they submit a log, and from that log we pick out 2 reports, and we go and we audit those reports, and we find that they're not in compliance. And it's like,
that's how it's always been done.
Yeah, and it's like we can deny their license at that point. We can deny them taking the test, and we can deny them going any further.
And your solution to that?
And my solution is that when they apply for their license, I think we wait 3 to 4 months and then ask them to submit an example of one of their reports.
So you catch it first rather than
Yes.
last.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And then we can do a compliance review. We can see what they need to work on. We can kind of put them in that right path. We can see if maybe we need to do some education in regards to the supervising appraiser.
Yeah. You had another idea that you've been working on regarding education. Mm-hmm. When somebody gets an allegation and maybe even into a complaint, aren't you looking into maybe being able to do education rather than direct punishment? Or What
Yes,
is that all about?
I'm actually been doing a lot of research to see what other states are doing, and I think that instead of hitting our appraisers with civil penalties all the time, maybe there is something else that we can do. Maybe if nobody's been damaged in any way, and maybe we didn't cross our T's, dot our I's, maybe we can get them to do some education. Maybe work one-on-one with a USPAP instructor.
I've heard about that. What is that?
Well, it's called a mentorship. It's not been approved. We're just looking into it. In fact, I'm going to have to work with the appraisal subcommittee to see how we can use it. But basically, for those people that have never been in trouble before, and it appears that they would be a good candidate, what would happen is that if they were to decide on this mentorship, if it's offered to them and they decide to do the mentorship, they would notify a USPAP instructor. They would spend anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, maybe even more, where they would work one-on-one with that USPAP instructor, and they would review the report, they would review the preliminary compliance report, and they would work on some of the issues in that report.
And if they did that, what would happen? Would it still be a complaint, or?
That's where I'm working with the appraisal subcommittee, and I'm going to have to do further research and talk to them about it.
But ultimately, you're trying to get it. If they do that, it doesn't actually be a complaint at all.
I'm not really sure if we're going to be able to go that far, or it could be that we can use it if it's successfully completed. We don't have to fine them.
So really,
the $1,500 or the $2,000 civil penalty.
So the decision on that type of thing is always the feds, the subcommittee,
Mm-hmm.
and they're always a pain. So what do you think of the position so far?
It's a challenge. I like it. I've met some great people, and I'm learning a lot. And and the day goes by really fast.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna change it a little bit now, because I'm gonna go towards more of some questions that have popped up in classes, in my email whatever. A lot of different things, and I just want to put them out there and maybe discuss them a little bit.
Okay.
Here's one that I just got a kick out of, and it's legitimate, because I think most people really honestly believe this. Here's the question. It says, let me get this straight. The chief appraiser of the state is not an appraiser.
That's correct, but I don't really know who the chief appraiser of the state is.
Well, is there such a thing?
There is no such a thing.
What would be? I mean, do you have any idea where this question was trying to lead to, or what is the misconception that is happening here with this question?
Well, yeah, it's the administrator doesn't have to be an appraiser. And I'm not out there doing appraisal reports. I have 2 licensed appraisers on staff. I have a board of six board members that are licensed appraisers, 2 being USPAP instructors. I do very little when it comes to doing that.
It almost sounds like this question is making the assumption that the board and the staff are advocates to the appraiser. It almost sounds like that the appraiser is saying, look, you are the ultimate appraiser that I can come to for answers.
Right.
Is that right?
That kind of sounds like it, and there's a lot of appraisers out there that feel that way, and we're not. We're a semi-independent agency with the state of Oregon. We regulate licensed appraisers, appraisal management companies, and appraiser assistants. So regulate them.
But it is a good question. I mean, you are regulating appraisers, but I guess why not be an appraiser and an administrator? Or why don't you think that there's a mandate that you're an appraiser first? Is that what the administrator's role is?
It's not. The administrator's role is to make sure that the office runs smoothly, that you're in compliance. The administrator works for the board. I write temporary rules, administrative rules. I make sure that the board is in compliance with our Oregon administrative rules, our federal laws, as well as the appraisal, the AQB.
So the administrator really doesn't do much with appraising?
No.
So who would that be limited to?
That would be, you know, it would be, I believe, it would be the advocates would be your Appraisal Institute, it would be NAFA, various other organizations out there.
Yeah, I've
they
heard.
They should be the advocates.
I've heard that before, that the Appraisal Institute is what's in control of the board. Is that true?
No, that's not true.
So the board's not an advocate of the IFA or the Institute, the ASA or anything like that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, fine. All right, here, let's move on here. Here's another question that's kind of related, by the way. It says, how can someone who is not an appraiser possibly understand or be an advocate to the appraisal profession?
And again, I cannot be an advocate for the appraisal profession.
'Cause
I can tell you that the governor frowns upon it, and so does legislators.
you mean a regulatory agency can't be an advocate to me?
No.
Oh.
I'm a regulator.
That's a harsh one.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I have to jump back a little bit.
Okay.
So the board members are appraisers,
Mm-hmm.
and they pretty much make all the decisions, right?
That's correct.
You don't make the decisions
No.
as an administrator?
Well, the board has allowed me to make some decisions, and they've asked me for my opinion, but overall the board is the one that makes those decisions.
So your decision is much more towards the office management?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily the enforcement?
Right.
Because the EOC, the Enforcement Oversight Committee, has taken that over.
Right.
And then that has to go before the board, and the board finally makes that
And the
decision.
board approves it.
Okay.
The recommendation from the Enforcement Oversight Committee, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's see. We covered that. I've got. Here's a question. Why were you? We're going historically now. Why were you qualified to be a compliance specialist for the AMCs in the first place?
I think it's because of my real estate background, and also I've had over 20 years with the state of Oregon.
Yeah, as far as
in administration, investigation, compliance specialist. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, and then, how did you become administrator? I'll answer it.
Okay,
the board voted you in. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So how many votes did you get on that?
It was unanimous, I believe,
Okay, cool.
as I've been told.
So you've been told. Okay, good. Heather, are there any questions out there?
Just a few. So I would like to invite people to ask any at this time. So let's go through. You've gone through some of this, but what immediate changes do you anticipate in the administration of the board?
In the administration of the board. Well, you know, right now we're trying to get the compliance specialist, the AMC compliance specialist. We're trying to catch up on our investigations. We're working on our website. Our website's been hacked in several times, and so right now I'm working on getting a user-friendly, more efficient website, as well as our database. And also, one of the things that I am really working hard to do is getting it all in place so that licensees can renew online. Other agencies are doing it. For the convenience of the licensees, I want to see them be able to renew online from our website.
You mean upload a photo, a 2x2 photo?
Yeah.
She's genius.
The whole thing.
Fancy.
Yeah, that's fancy.
All right, we have another question. Are there any significant policy differences between the ACLB and USPAP? And this might be a question for either of you.
Say that again?
Are there any significant policy differences between the ACLB and USPAP?
I'm not even sure if I understand that question.
Yeah,
USPAP doesn't really have a policy. It's just minimum standards.
Right.
And the ACLB has a responsibility to regulate those minimum requirements.
And we do have administrative rules that say follow USPAP.
Yes.
Allows that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Great. Quick question: where are the minutes available from the meetings?
Awesome question.
From our website. There's if you look under, I believe, board, and you open up the tab that refers to the board, the meetings are located there. And if you're not able to find it, please call in to Kelly and she'll walk you through it.
I got it, and if I can say, those minutes are so much better, and it really starts telling you what the board's discussing, how they're feeling. I mean, it really gets down to, I don't even think you need to go to the board meetings, although I recommend it, to understand what goes on within the EOC meetings as well as the board meetings. I think it's a huge, awesome change.
Yeah. The Enforcement Oversight Committee minutes I don't believe they're on our website as of yet, but you're welcome to call in and we'll be glad to send you the minutes.
Yeah, because it's all public. Don't be shy. Before you ask, Heather, no, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
That's okay.
No, go ahead.
Let's see, someone's asking if there are any upcoming increases to the appraiser's licensing fees, renewal, or otherwise.
I'm not aware of it. We're trying to, we know that, times are tough for appraisers, and we're doing our part in conserving and seeing what we can do at the appraisal board that we can cut our expenses.
I've got nothing on that one.
Well, that's all the questions I have so far. So.
Okay. So there is one more. I can't believe that people have not called in with all these issues that have happened, all the rumors. When we were looking to replace the administrator, it really put the board in a really bad place because we lost two significant people. They stepped down. And it was quick, and so we were at a loss.
Actually, three.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so the board got so many responses regarding, the administrator had to be an appraiser, and there were a lot of people very upset about that. Is there anything that you can say to them that would, take that feeling away that they're in trouble? Because you're an administrator and a manager rather than an appraiser. Right. I know I keep hounding on it, but it's just I'm so shocked that people have not.
Yeah, for someone who's an administrator and who is an appraiser in that position in the past to have that much power, it's incredible. It's really the board that oversees, and I'm talking about the board members, all 8 board members that oversee the board. And I really feel confident that we have the right people on the board, and the administrator all they need to do is take care of the office, and they need to take care of the budget, and they need to concentrate on making sure we have the proper statutes and rules, and make sure that the board doesn't get into trouble regarding those statutes and rules and federal laws and USPAP, and just make sure we don't get in trouble with the governor's office, and that we have the governor's report completed on time, that we have various other state agency reports completed on time. It's
much more of a management position.
It really is. Yeah. To make sure that the personnel have the qualifications, and they have the backing and the confidence and the support You know, it's nice to have an administrator that's there every day to support and to back up the personnel, and to be able to answer the phone, and you can contact me. You know.
What's your extension?
Oh.
It's on the website. You don't need it. Here's one other question too, and this has come up a couple of times. Several appraisers have contacted me who are actually, I believe, the staff has directed them to me, and
yes.
they're a little bit perturbed, to be honest with
yeah.
you. But they call down there and they ask a question about USPAP, and the staff is a little bit leery about answering those, and so they refer them off to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Why that change? Because, you know, before it was, you know.
It was actually our Assistant Attorney General, State of Oregon Assistant Attorney General, that told the staff not to answer and be giving legal.
And USPAP
yes,
answers would be illegal?
Interpretation. Well, it's, you know, we're not USPAP instructors. And when a licensee calls into us, we have found that the licensee only tells us a little bit of the story, or will just ask certain questions. And the staff isn't trained enough, because we're not USPAP instructors, to know what questions to ask.
But you guys regulate USPAP.
We do regulate USPAP, but from our investigation of looking at the reports and looking at and talking to.
So you're getting all of the information
evidence
before you give the answer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what was happening was licensees were calling in because they had a question. They didn't even know how to open up the USPAP book. I mean, we would be glad, and we do. We will tell them, you know, we'll have you check USPAP. We recommend maybe you might want to read standard, you know, to whatever. So we'll give them directions on where to look. But other than that, that's about as far as we will go, because we don't want to be liable.
You sound a lot like the Appraisal Foundation. Never give a direct answer. Always go around this way and that
way. We do have a few more questions that have come in. We're back to the newsletter. So you guys are going to start putting that out hopefully soon?
Well, we are. First of all, I've got to take care of our IT issues. And as soon as we get that taken care of, yes. Our plan is to have a newsletter that will go out by email, and we're hoping to get that done. I can't even give you a time or a deadline, but it is on the agenda. We'd love to go out there and, you know, and give you a heads up of what we see and what's been said to us and what the Enforcement Oversight Committee has been saying over and over and over again on some of the reports. Yes.
Yeah, I think the Enforcement and Oversight Committee is actually starting that process to kind of do a don't do this or do this type of thing.
Right.
So I think that's in the process. I don't know exactly when that's going out.
Right now, when we send out emails, and we have been sending out emails, it takes us 4 to 5 days to send out an email to all of the appraisers, because we are only allowed to send out so many emails per day. And
how long has this been like that?
Oh my gosh, well, since I've been there, but I've been told it's been longer. So it is such a struggle to send out an email to all of our appraisers, but we do it. And you probably have received several emails from us, and if you haven't, please check your junk file, because it might be in there and you need to do something on your end.
Great. Another question. Are there any plans to enforce unlicensed evaluations by third parties?
Well,
what do you think?
Well, I mean, there's
question.
exceptions
to
the laws, and many of the folks that you think are unlicensed, have an unlicensed appraisal activity, are ultimately found out not to be required to be licensed. So it's a tough one. Yeah, I
It
know
all
of a,
depends on the circumstances.
yeah, and I know there's been a couple
Mhm.
cases where the board has actually
It was
fined.
the tax consultants or
Well,
tax.
the tax consultants are actually the exemptions, right?
Yeah.
You did some research on that.
Mhm.
So
We did.
that's a really, really tough question. I think the board has had a couple of them come
Mhm.
through,
Mhm.
but we're always looking.
Yes.
We just need the complaint or the allegation, and we also need the support for that allegation.
Yes.
Great. So the ACLB does have an administrative rule requiring AMCs to pay. Is it 45 days?
That's correct. Mhm.
Do they have anything in there regarding VA and how quickly they have to pay, or is that the same?
It's not. It's just the appraisal management companies
Okay, so
have to pay within 45 days. Mhm.
okay. So somebody's wondering if we can't
Oh.
mandate or talk to VA or
Mm.
however we did it with the AMCs. Is that not possible?
I guess the question is, do you really want that?
Yeah.
I mean, see, I much prefer due upon me delivering the assignment. I really don't want them. You understand what I'm saying? Is do you really want a government agency to actually regulate your business practices?
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, I don't like waiting 45 days. I like it now. And so, if you have a rule that allows them to pay you in 45 days, so I really think that's much more of a business issue.
And if you were to have something like that, at first it would have to be a law, and you'd have to introduce it to the legislators for it to become a law, and then you write rules. So it's
a process.
It's a process.
Yes, very much so.
Another person mentions that she used to call the compliance officer when she had a question as to how to proceed in a certain situation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that service still available?
She can still call, yes. Larry is taking calls. But again, he would probably make a suggestion. But if it comes to, if it comes to something simple, yes, he will be able to answer that question. But if it is something more complex, we would probably refer you to either seek legal counsel or to call a use path instructor.
Or call one of your peers.
Yeah.
I mean, bottom line is if you're part of an organization like the Appraisal Institute or the NEIFA or the ASA, that is what they're for. I mean, they are there to support and be advocates to the appraisal profession. So, call instructors, call your membership, call your peers. Those are the guys who really you should be talking to anyway. That's my personal belief.
Somebody thinks we should just clarify that the VA and an AMC are not.
VA is not an AMC.
So,
No.
in case there was any confusion
Right.
with our
and,
questions.
and by the way, that's why there's no 45-day payment
Mm-hmm.
requirement.
VA is Veterans Administration. Yes.
I think that's it for questions.
Excellent.
Great.
Well, I hope everybody got something out of this. I would recommend to call down to the board. If you have questions, don't hesitate to call down there. They are not advocates to the profession, but they are there. You are part of the public, and you do have a right to call down there. I highly recommend looking at all the minutes. If you ever have any problems with Gae Lynne or the staff or anybody else, Gae Lynne or the staff or anybody else, I would just highly recommend to give them a call, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there that are just not true. So if you do, give me a call, give Gae Lynne a call, and hopefully you got something out of this.
There's going to be a lot of changes at the board, and I welcome your input. Again, feel free to call me. My extension is 107. We're looking out for everyone, but we're very limited at what we can do in regards to being an advocate. We cannot be an advocate. We're regulators, but there's there's going to be a lot of changes in the future.
Good changes.
Yes.
All right. No more questions?
No more questions.
All right, everybody, go out there, have some fun. Appreciate your participation.